In the vastness of space, far beyond the reaches of Earth's solar system, there existed a planet called Zethyrus. It was not like Earth with its blue oceans and green lands. Instead, it shimmered with strange colors, purples, silvers, and deep blues that seemed to shift as if alive. The skies above were filled with swirling clouds that glowed faintly at night, casting an eerie light over the land below. This world belonged to the Vryn, an alien species known for their advanced technology and unrelenting ambition. The Vryn were tall, with sleek bodies covered in smooth, metallic scales that reflected light in dazzling patterns. Their eyes were large and multifaceted, capable of seeing things humans could only dream of detecting. They spoke in low, resonant tones, their voices carrying authority even when they whispered. For centuries, the Vryn had expanded their empire. Across the stars, conquering planets and enslaving lesser species without mercy. To them, power was everything, and weakness was something to be crushed without hesitation on this particular day. However, the calm of their dominion was disturbed by an unusual event. A small spacecraft, battered and scorched from travel through dangerous regions of space, drifted into Vryn-controlled territory. Its appearance was strange, nothing like the sleek, angular designs favored by the Vryn or other advanced civilizations. It looked almost primitive, patched together with mismatched parts and held together by what appeared to be sheer determination. Sensors aboard nearby Vryn patrol ships detected no weapon systems. Yet the craft moved with surprising speed despite its damaged state. Commander Lyra, a high-ranking officer within the Vryn military, was alerted immediately. She stood on the bridge of her cruiser, her sharp eyes scanning the data displayed before her. Her demeanor was cold and calculating, every movement precise and deliberate. Around her, other Vryn officers worked efficiently, their scaled hands moving over control panels with practiced ease. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a tone of irritation mixed with curiosity. "What is this?" she demanded, pointing to the image of the unknown vessel floating on one of the screens. "Where did it come from?" No one had an answer. The ship's origin was unclear, and its trajectory suggested it had been drifting aimlessly for some time. Still, Lyra knew better than to dismiss anything out of hand. Under Keller, the leader of the Vryn, even the smallest anomaly required investigation. With a flick of her wrist, she ordered 2 fighters to intercept the mysterious craft. If it posed any threat, it would be neutralized swiftly. If not, perhaps it held secrets worth uncovering. As the Vryn fighters closed in, the battered ship suddenly came to life. Its engines sputtered but roared to full power, propelling it forward in a desperate attempt to evade capture. Inside, Alex Carter gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles white from strain. He was a human, though he barely resembled one anymore. His face was gaunt, his skin pale from months spent adrift in space. Dark circles ringed his eyes, and his clothes hung loosely on his thin frame. Yet despite his physical condition, there was fire in his gaze, a fierce determination that refused to let him give up. Alex had once lived on a peaceful colony, near the edge of human territory, a place where people dreamed of exploring the stars rather than fighting over them. That dream had turned into a nightmare when the Vryn attacked without warning. Ships descended from the sky like vultures, destroying everything in their path. Alex had managed to escape aboard a repair shuttle, but the journey since then had been harrowing. Supplies ran low, systems failed, and loneliness gnawed at his sanity. But through it all, he clung to one thought: revenge. The Vryn fighters fired warning shots, forcing Alex to surrender. His ship shuddered violently as energy. Blasts struck its hull, leaving scorch marks and causing sparks to fly inside the cockpit. Knowing he couldn't outrun them, Alex activated the emergency shutdown sequence and braced himself for impact. Moments later, the Vryn boarded his vessel, their towering forms filling the cramped space. They surrounded him, weapons drawn, their glowing eyes studying him with disdain. Lyra arrived shortly after, stepping onto the ship with an air of superiority. She regarded Alex with a mixture of disgust and intrigue. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, considered little more than pests by most Vryn, yet here was one who had somehow survived against impossible odds. "Who are you?" she asked. her voice dripping with condescension. "Why have you entered our territory?" Alex didn't respond immediately. He stared back at her, his chest rising and falling with ragged breaths. Finally he spoke, his voice hoarse but steady. "My name is Alex Carter," he said, meeting her gaze without flinching. "And I'm here because of what your kind did to my home." Lyra sneered, unimpressed by his defiance. "Your home? What do you mean?" "You destroyed it," Alex replied, his tone hardening. "You came without warning, slaughtered innocent people, and left nothing behind. You think you're untouchable? Don't you? That no one can stop you?" Lyra laughed, a low, mocking sound that echoed through the tiny ship. "You are but one human. What could you possibly do to us?" Alex's lips curved into a grim smile. "You want war?" he said, his voice rising slightly. "Then watch your worlds blaze." For a moment, silence fell over the group. Even Lyra seemed taken aback by the intensity of his words. Then, regaining her composure, she signaled for her soldiers to take him away. As they dragged him off the ship, Alex continued to meet her gaze, his expression unwavering. Though his body was weak, his spirit burned brighter than ever. Back aboard the cruiser, Alex was thrown into a holding cell, its walls made of transparent material that allowed him no privacy. The Vryn monitored him closely, determined to extract whatever information he might possess. Lyra personally oversaw the interrogations, using both psychological tactics and physical coercion to break him. But no matter how much pressure she applied, Alex remained resolute. He revealed nothing, refusing to betray the fragile hope that still lingered in his heart. Word of the incident reached Keller, the supreme leader of the Vryn. Unlike Lyra, who viewed Alex as little more than a nuisance, Keller sensed something deeper at play. There was a ferocity in the human's eyes, a spark of rebellion that intrigued him. He ordered Lyra to keep Alex alive, instructing her to dig deeper into his past. Meanwhile, he began making preparations for a potential conflict, unwilling to underestimate any adversary, even one as seemingly insignificant as a lone human. Days passed, and Alex endured unimaginable hardships. The Vryn deprived him of food and water, subjected him to freezing temperatures, and bombarded him with questions designed to wear down his resistance. Yet through it all, he held on, drawing strength from memories of those he had lost. Each time Lyra entered the cell, expecting to find him broken, she instead found him sitting quietly, his eyes fixed on hers with quiet defiance. One evening, as the artificial lights dimmed to simulate night, Alex lay on the cold floor of his cell, staring up at the ceiling. Despite the pain coursing through his body, his mind raced with thoughts of escape. He knew he couldn't defeat the Vryn alone, but maybe he didn't need to. Maybe all he needed to do was survive long enough to deliver a message, one that would ignite a fire among his own kind. Far away on Earth, humanity remained blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding in the depths of space. Colonies dotted the outer edges of human territory, their inhabitants working tirelessly to build new lives among the stars. Among them was Captain Ryan Hayes, a seasoned officer stationed at a remote outpost tasked with monitoring activity in nearby sectors. Ryan was a man of average height, with short brown hair and a rugged face marked by years of service. He wasn't particularly charismatic or ambitious, but he was dependable, a trait that earned him the respect of those under his command. Ryan had always believed in avoiding unnecessary conflict, especially with the Vryn. He understood their technological superiority and knew that direct confrontation would likely end in disaster. Instead, he advocated for diplomacy and caution, hoping to preserve peace for as long as possible. However, recent reports of attacks on human colonies troubled him deeply. Entire settlements had vanished without explanation, leaving behind only charred ruins and unanswered questions. As Ryan pored over the latest intelligence reports, a faint signal caught his attention. It was weak, almost drowned out by static, but unmistakably artificial. Tracing its origin, he discovered it came from the same region where Alex's ship had been captured. Intrigued, Ryan isolated the transmission and began decoding it. What he found sent chills down his spine, fragments of data detailing key locations within the Vryn Empire, including potential vulnerabilities in their infrastructure. Realizing the significance of this discovery, Ryan contacted Lieutenant Elena Morales, a brilliant strategist assigned to his unit. Elena was a striking woman with dark hair pulled back into a tight bun and piercing green eyes that missed nothing. She had a reputation for thinking several steps ahead, often anticipating problems before they arose. Together they analyzed the information, piecing together a plan that might just turn the tide in humanity's favor. While Ryan and Elena worked tirelessly to prepare for what lay ahead, Alex remained trapped in his cell, biding his time. He knew that somewhere out there, Back on Earth, life continued as usual for most people. The planet was peaceful, its cities bustling with activity and its skies filled with the hum of shuttles traveling between colonies. For Captain Ryan Hayes, however, peace felt like a fragile illusion. He sat in his office at the remote outpost, staring at the decoded fragments of data Alex's transmission had carried. On the screen before him were coordinates, schematics, and notes written in shorthand that only someone familiar with human coding could understand. Each piece of information pointed to vulnerabilities within the Vryn Empire, weak points in their defenses, energy conduits powering their cities, and even the locations of key military installations. Ryan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He wasn't sure what to make of it all. The message was clear. Alex had risked everything to send this intel back to humanity. But why? And how had he managed to gather such detailed information while being held captive by the Vryn? Ryan knew one thing for certain: the stakes were higher than ever. If these coordinates were accurate, they represented an opportunity humanity couldn't afford to ignore. Yet acting on them would mean declaring open war against the Vryn, a species far more advanced technologically. He called Lieutenant Elena Morales into the room. Elena arrived quickly, her sharp eyes scanning the documents spread across Ryan's desk. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "What does this mean?" she asked, pointing to the map showing the Vryn-controlled systems. "It means we have a chance," Ryan replied, his voice steady but tinged with unease. "Alex sent us this data. It's too precise to be random." He must have found a way to study their systems while he was imprisoned. Elena frowned, her mind already working through the implications. "If we use this information, we'll be stepping into a war we're not ready for. The Vryn won't take kindly to humans targeting their worlds." "I know," Ryan said, sighing heavily. "But if we don't act, they'll keep coming after us. They've already destroyed several colonies. How many more lives are we willing to lose?" Elena nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the decision they faced. "We need a plan. Something bold enough to catch them off guard, but small enough to minimize casualties if things go wrong." Over the next few days, Ryan and Elena worked tirelessly to devise a strategy. They gathered their best engineers, strategists, and pilots, forming a team dedicated to preparing for what would likely become humanity's first major offensive against the Vryn. The centerpiece of their plan was a fleet of prototype ships, equipped with experimental weapons designed to disrupt Vryn technology. These weapons relied on pulsed energy fields capable of disabling enemy systems temporarily, giving human forces a critical advantage during combat. While the preparations continued, Ryan struggled with doubts. He had always believed in avoiding conflict, favoring diplomacy over violence. Now he found himself leading a mission that could ignite a galactic war. To ease his concerns, he sought advice from Colonel Daniel Brooks, a veteran of earlier skirmishes with alien species. Daniel was older, with graying hair and a weathered face that spoke of years spent fighting battles both physical and moral. "You're doing the right thing," Daniel told Ryan when they met in private. "Sometimes peace has to be fought for. You can't let fear stop you from protecting your people." Ryan appreciated the words, but they did little to silence the nagging voice in his head. What if the mission failed? What if the Vryn retaliated with overwhelming force? Still, he pushed forward, knowing there was no turning back now. Meanwhile, aboard the Vryn cruiser, Alex Carter endured another day of captivity. His body ached from hunger and exhaustion, and the constant surveillance grated on his nerves. Yet his resolve remained unshaken. Every time Commander Lyra entered the cell to interrogate him, Alex refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing him break. Instead, he used their encounters to learn more about the Vryn, observing their behavior and picking up bits of their language. One evening, as the lights dimmed to simulate night, Alex noticed something unusual. A young Vryn soldier tasked with guarding his cell seemed hesitant, almost nervous. Her scales shimmered faintly in the low light, and her multifaceted eyes darted around as if searching for something or someone. Intrigued, Alex decided to test her. "Why are you here?" he asked softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The guard stiffened, clearly startled by the question. She glanced around nervously before responding. I follow orders," she stammered, her tone betraying uncertainty. Alex pressed further. "Do you believe in what Keller is doing? Destroying planets, killing innocent people?" The guard hesitated, her glowing eyes flickering with emotion. For a moment, Alex thought she might lash out, but instead she lowered her weapon slightly. "Not all of us agree with him," she admitted quietly, "but speaking against him is dangerous." Her words gave Alex hope. Perhaps not all Vryn were loyal to their leader. If he could find allies among them, even just a few, it might increase his chances of escape and survival. From that point on, Alex began subtly building trust with the guard, whom he later learned was named Zara. Over the course of several nights, they exchanged cautious conversations, each one bringing them closer to a tentative alliance. Zara revealed that dissatisfaction with Keller's rule was growing among some factions of the Vryn. Many resented his aggressive expansion policies, which drained resources and left their own worlds vulnerable to external threats. However, dissenters were silenced quickly, often disappearing without explanation. This knowledge strengthened Alex's resolve. If he could expose Keller's weaknesses to humanity, it might inspire rebellion within the Vryn ranks as well. As the days passed, Alex also studied the layout of the cruiser, memorizing patrol routes and identifying potential escape paths. He knew timing would be crucial. Any misstep could result in failure and death. When the opportunity finally came, it arrived unexpectedly. During a routine inspection, a malfunction caused a temporary power outage in part of the ship. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and chaos erupted as Vryn officers scrambled to restore order. Seizing the moment, Zara unlocked Alex's cell and handed him a stolen sidearm. "Go," she urged, her voice urgent. "I'll cover for you as long as I can." Without hesitation, Alex sprinted down the corridor, relying on his memory of the ship's layout to guide him. He encountered resistance along the way, narrowly avoiding patrols and disabling security drones with quick thinking and sheer determination. Finally, he reached the hangar bay, where a small shuttle awaited. Activating its systems, Alex launched into space, leaving the cruiser behind. His escape did not go unnoticed. Alarms sounded throughout the Vryn fleet as commanders realized a prisoner had fled. Ships scrambled to pursue him, but Alex had anticipated this. Using evasive maneuvers and tricks he'd picked up during his months adrift, he managed to slip past their defenses and set a course for human territory. Keller was furious when news of Alex's escape reached him. He summoned Lyra to his chambers, his towering form radiating anger as he paced back and forth. "How could this happen?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "You assured me he posed no threat." Lyra bowed her head, struggling to maintain her composure. "My lord, we underestimated him. He is resourceful, yes, but alone he cannot harm us." Keller stopped pacing and turned to face her, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with menace. "Alone, perhaps. But what if he reaches his kind? What then?" The thought sent a chill through Lyra. She had dismissed Alex's earlier warning as empty bravado, but now she wondered if she had been wrong. Could the human truly pose a threat to their empire? While the Vryn debated their next move, Alex's shuttle limped toward Earth. Its systems were failing, damaged during the escape, but Alex refused to give up. He patched together makeshift repairs using whatever materials he could find, keeping the ship operational long enough to reach the edge of human-controlled space. When his vessel finally crossed into friendly territory, it was intercepted by a patrol squadron led by Lieutenant Morales. At first, the pilots were wary, unsure whether the battered craft posed a danger. But when they identified Alex as human, relief washed over them. Escorted to a nearby station, Alex collapsed upon arrival, exhausted but alive. Ryan and Elena greeted him personally, their expressions a mix of awe and concern. "You made it," Ryan said, helping Alex to a seat. "What happened?" Alex recounted his ordeal, describing the Vryn's arrogance, their reliance on centralized systems, and the growing discontent among their ranks. He emphasized the importance of striking quickly before Keller could fortify his defenses. "They think we're weak," Alex concluded. "We need to prove them wrong." Elena listened intently, her mind racing with possibilities. "If we hit them hard enough, we might create cracks in their empire. Cracks that could grow into fractures." Ryan nodded, though his expression remained troubled. "It's a gamble. But if we don't try, we'll never know." With renewed purpose, the team finalized their plans. They selected a minor Vryn outpost as their target, a location listed in Alex's intel as strategically insignificant but symbolically important. By attacking it, humanity would send a message. They were no longer willing to cower in fear. As the fleet prepared to launch, Alex insisted on joining the mission. "I started the human fleet moved silently through the vastness of space, its ships cloaked in darkness to avoid detection. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the glowing screens that displayed their destination, a small but vital Vryn outpost located near the edge of their territory. The outpost wasn't heavily guarded, which made it an ideal target for humanity's first strike. Yet despite its apparent insignificance, Alex Carter had assured them that attacking it would send a clear message. Humanity was no longer willing to be pushed around. Ryan glanced at Lieutenant Elena Morales, who stood nearby, her arms crossed, and her expression focused. She had spent countless hours refining the attack plan, ensuring every detail was accounted for. Her strategy called for precision, hit hard, disable key systems, and retreat before reinforcements could arrive. It was risky but necessary. If they succeeded, it would demonstrate humanity's ability to fight back against the technologically superior Vryn. If they failed, the consequences would be catastrophic. Alex sat in a corner of the bridge, his gaunt face illuminated by the soft glow of the control panels. Though physically weak from months of captivity, his mind was sharp, his determination unshaken. He had spent hours briefing the pilots and engineers about the Vryn's weaknesses, sharing insights he had gathered during his time aboard their cruiser. His presence inspired the crew, reminding them why they were risking everything. As the fleet approached the outpost, tension filled the air. The ships decloaked, revealing sleek, angular designs equipped with experimental weapons. These weapons, developed in secret labs on Earth, emitted pulsed energy fields capable of disrupting Vryn technology. They weren't perfect, some tests had shown inconsistencies, but they represented humanity's best chance at leveling the playing field. "Entering firing range," announced one of the officers, breaking the silence. Ryan nodded, his voice steady as he gave the order. "Prepare to engage." The battle began with a sudden burst of light as human ships unleashed their weapons. Pulses of energy surged toward the outpost, striking its defensive shields and causing them to flicker. The Vryn responded quickly, launching fighters to counterattack. Their ships darted through space like streaks of silver, firing beams of concentrated energy that forced the humans to maneuver evasively. On the bridge, alarms blared as enemy fire grazed the flagship's hull. Ryan gripped the railing tightly, his knuckles white. "Stay focused," he shouted over the noise. "Stick to the plan." Elena monitored the situation closely, her sharp eyes scanning the tactical displays. "Their shields are weakening," she reported. "Another volley should do it." A human fleet regrouped, adjusting their positions to maximize their firepower. A second wave of energy pulses struck the outpost, this time breaching its defenses. Explosions erupted across its surface as critical systems failed, plunging the structure into chaos. Inside, Vryn soldiers scrambled to contain the damage, their once confident demeanor replaced by panic. From his position on the bridge, Alex watched the destruction unfold with mixed emotions. Part of him felt satisfaction knowing the Vryn were paying for their crimes. Another part felt sorrow for the lives lost, even if they belonged to those who had caused so much suffering. He reminded himself that war was never clean or simple. It was messy, painful, and often brutal. But sometimes it was unavoidable. As the outpost crumbled under the relentless assault, the Vryn fighters withdrew, retreating to regroup. The human fleet didn't pursue them. Instead, they executed a swift exit, disappearing into the void of space before reinforcements could arrive. The mission had been a success, though the cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone involved. Back on Earth, news of the attack spread quickly. Colonists celebrated cautiously, unsure whether to feel relief or fear. For years, humanity had lived under the shadow of the Vryn, powerless to stop their advances. Now, for the first time, there was hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they could stand up to their oppressors. Keller, however, did not share in this optimism. When word of the outpost's destruction reached him, his reaction was immediate and explosive. He summoned Commander Lyra to his chambers, his towering form radiating fury as he paced back and forth. "How could this happen?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "We are the most powerful species in the galaxy. How could mere humans dare to defy us?" Lyra bowed her head, struggling to maintain her composure. "My lord, they used advanced weaponry we did not anticipate. We underestimated them." Keller stopped pacing and turned to face her, his multifaceted eyes gleaming with menace. "Underestimated them? You let them humiliate us. Do you realize what this means? If we do not respond decisively, others will see us as weak. They will rise against us." Lyra swallowed hard, knowing the truth of his words. The Vryn Empire thrived on fear and respect. Any sign of vulnerability could inspire rebellion among subjugated species or embolden rival factions within their own ranks. Keller's next move would determine the fate of their dominion. "We must retaliate," Keller declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. "But not just anywhere. We strike at the heart of their civilization, Earth itself?" Lyra's eyes widened in shock. Attacking Earth was unprecedented. The planet was distant, heavily populated, and largely undefended compared to military outposts. Destroying it would send a devastating message, but it would also come at a great cost. Billions of lives would be extinguished, and the moral implications would ripple through the galaxy. Still, she knew better than to question Keller's orders. "As you command, my lord," she said, bowing deeply. "I will prepare the fleet immediately." While the Vryn prepared for their counteroffensive, Alex, Ryan, and Elena returned to Earth to assess the outcome of their mission. The victory had boosted morale, but none of them believed it would end there. The Vryn were proud and ruthless. They would not let such an insult go unanswered. "We need to prepare for the worst," Ryan said during a debriefing session. "If they're coming for Earth, we have to be ready." Elena nodded, her expression grim. "We've proven we can hit them where it hurts. But defending an entire planet is a different challenge altogether." Alex listened quietly, his mind racing with possibilities. He had spent enough time among the Vryn to understand how they thought. They wouldn't simply launch a direct assault. They would seek to cripple humanity's ability to resist first. That meant targeting communication networks, supply lines, and other critical infrastructure. "They'll try to isolate us," Alex said finally, drawing everyone's attention. "Cut us off from each other so we can't coordinate a defense? We need to strengthen our connections, make sure every colony can support the others." Ryan agreed, seeing the wisdom in Alex's suggestion. "We'll reinforce key locations and establish backup channels for communication. And we'll keep building more ships armed with those energy disruptors." Over the next few days, humanity worked tirelessly to fortify its defenses. Engineers labored around the clock to produce additional weapons, while strategists devised contingency plans for various scenarios. Civilians volunteered to assist in any way they could, whether by serving as medics, repairing equipment, or standing guard. Fear still lingered in the hearts of many, but it was tempered by a growing sense of unity. During this time, Alex found himself reflecting on the events that had led him here. From the moment the Vryn destroyed his home, he had vowed to make them pay. Now, standing on the brink of war, he realized how much had changed, not just in the world around him, but within himself. He had started as a lone survivor, driven by grief and anger. But along the way, he had become something more, a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for those who refused to give up. One evening, as he walked through the bustling streets of a nearby colony, Alex noticed a group of children playing together. They laughed and chased each other, oblivious to the looming threat above. Watching them, Alex felt a pang of sadness. These were the lives they were fighting to protect the future generations who deserved a chance to grow up without fear. Whatever happened next, he vowed to ensure they had that chance. Meanwhile, far away, the Vryn fleet gathered for its assault on Earth. Ships of all sizes assembled in orbit around Zethyrus, their sleek forms glinting menacingly in the light of the twin suns. Keller addressed his commanders, his voice booming throughout the assembly hall. "This is not just an attack," he declared. "It is a statement. Let the humans know that defiance will be met with annihilation." As the fleet launched into space, heading toward Earth, humanity braced itself for what was to come. The skies above the planet grew darker, clouds thickening as if sensing the storm approaching. Soldiers manned their posts, families huddled together, and leaders prepared. Speeches intended to inspire courage in the face of despair. Among the defenders was Zara, the Vryn guard who had helped Alex escape. After fleeing the cruiser, she had sought refuge with humanity, believing that change could only come from within. Though initially met with suspicion, she had earned their trust through her knowledge of Vryn tactics and her willingness to help. Now she stood alongside Alex, Ryan, and Elena, ready to fight for a cause greater than herself. "We can win this," Zara said softly, her glowing eyes reflecting determination. "Not because we're Stro." The Vryn fleet approached Earth with terrifying speed, its ships blotting out the stars as they descended upon the planet. From orbit, the invaders unleashed a barrage of energy beams and missiles, targeting cities, communication hubs, and military installations. The skies above Earth erupted in blinding flashes of light, and explosions tore through the atmosphere, sending shockwaves rippling across the surface. Humanity's defenses strained under the assault, but the resolve of its people remained unbroken. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship, his face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays, showing the chaos unfolding below. The human fleet had assembled in orbit, ready to meet the Vryn head-on, though outnumbered and outgunned. Ryan knew they couldn't afford to falter. Every second counted. If the Vryn overwhelmed them here, Earth would fall, and with it, any hope of survival. "Hold your positions," Ryan shouted over the cacophony of alarms and reports flooding the bridge. His voice carried authority, steadying the nerves of the crew around him. "Focus fire on their lead ships. We need to break their momentum." Lieutenant Elena Morales worked tirelessly at her station, coordinating attacks and adjusting strategies in real time. Her sharp eyes darted between screens, analyzing data streams and issuing commands to the fleet. "Their shields are holding," she reported grimly. "But if we concentrate our disruptors on one section, we might create a gap." Alex Carter watched the battle unfold from a nearby console, his hands clenched into fists. He felt powerless, unable to contribute directly to the fight. Yet he reminded himself that his role wasn't to pilot a ship or fire weapons, it was to guide humanity's efforts using the knowledge he had gained during his captivity. When Elena called for input, Alex leaned forward, pointing to a cluster of enemy vessels hovering near the rear of the formation. "They're protecting something," he said urgently. "Those ships aren't engaging us, they're guarding a command vessel. Take it out and you'll cripple their coordination." Elena nodded, relaying the information to the fleet. Within moments, several human ships broke off from the main group, weaving through enemy fire to reach the target. Their experimental disruptors pulsed with energy, striking the command vessel repeatedly until its shields collapsed. A final volley breached its hull, and the massive ship exploded in a fiery burst, scattering debris across space. The loss of their command vessel threw the Vryn into disarray. Without centralized leadership, their attacks became less coordinated, giving humanity a brief reprieve. But Keller, watching from aboard his personal cruiser, refused to yield. With a roar of fury, he ordered his forces to regroup and press the attack with renewed ferocity. On Earth's surface, civilians huddled in underground shelters, listening to the distant rumble of destruction. Among them was Zara, the Vryn defector, who had chosen to stand with humanity. She moved among the frightened crowds, offering reassurance and helping tend to the wounded. Her presence was both strange and comforting, a reminder that even within the Vryn ranks, there were those who sought change. "We can't give up," Zara told a group of survivors, her glowing eyes reflecting determination. "If we hold on just a little longer, we can turn this around." Her words inspired courage, but the situation remained dire. The Vryn fleet continued to bombard Earth, and humanity's resources were dwindling. Ships fell from the sky, their crews lost. In fiery plumes, pilots exhausted themselves trying to evade enemy fire, while engineers worked frantically to repair damaged vessels mid-battle. It seemed only a matter of time before the defenders were overwhelmed. In the midst of the chaos, Alex approached Ryan and Elena with an idea. "We need to hit them where it hurts most," he said, his voice low but intense. "Keller's arrogance is his greatest weakness. He thinks he's untouchable because he hides behind his fleet. If we can get to him, if we can take him down, it'll shatter their morale." Ryan frowned, considering the proposal. "Getting close to Keller won't be easy. His cruiser is heavily guarded, but not impossible," Elena interjected. "If we create a diversion, a small team could slip past their lines and infiltrate his ship." Alex stepped forward, his expression unwavering. "I'll lead the team. I know their systems better than anyone." Ryan hesitated, torn between gratitude for Alex's bravery and concern for his safety. Finally, he nodded. "All right. But you're not going alone. Elena and I will assemble a squad to support you." Within minutes, the plan was set. While the bulk of the human fleet launched a desperate counterattack to draw the Vryn's attention, Alex, Ryan, Elena, and a handful of soldiers boarded a stealth shuttle designed to evade detection. Their mission was clear: infiltrate Keller's cruiser, disable its defenses, and eliminate the Vryn leader. The journey to the cruiser was fraught with danger. Enemy patrols roamed the battlefield, scanning for any sign of resistance. Alex guided the shuttle through narrow gaps in the debris field, using destroyed ships as cover. His heart pounded as they neared their destination, knowing that failure meant certain death not just for them, but for everyone on Earth. When they reached the cruiser, Alex disabled its external sensors with a well-placed disruptor pulse, allowing the shuttle to dock undetected. The team disembarked cautiously, weapons drawn and senses alert. Inside, the air was cold and metallic, the walls lined with glowing conduits that hummed softly. They moved quickly, following Alex's directions toward the central command hub. As they progressed, they encountered Vryn soldiers patrolling the corridors. Each confrontation was tense, requiring quick reflexes and precise aim. Ryan and Elena covered the rear, ensuring no enemies ambushed them from behind, while Alex led the way, his knowledge of Vryn architecture guiding their path. Despite the constant threat of discovery, the team pressed on, driven by the knowledge that every step brought them closer to victory. Finally, they reached the command hub, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays and control panels. At its center stood Keller, his towering form radiating authority as he barked orders to his subordinates. His multifaceted eyes glowed with rage, and his scaled fist clenched tightly as he watched the battle unfold. Alex stepped forward, his weapon trained on the Vryn leader. "It's over, Keller," he declared, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Your reign of terror ends here?" Keller turned slowly, his gaze locking onto Alex. For a moment there was silence, broken only by the faint hum of machinery. Then a low laugh rumbled from deep within his chest. "You think you've won?" he sneered. "Even if you kill me, my empire will endure." "You cannot destroy what we have built," Alex didn't respond. Instead, He activated a device strapped to his wrist, a crude but effective tool cobbled together from scavenged parts. The device emitted a high-pitched whine, causing the glowing conduits along the walls to flicker violently. Alarms blared as systems began to fail, plunging the chamber into darkness. "What have you done?" Keller demanded, his voice rising in panic. "I've shown you what happens when you underestimate us," Alex replied, his tone cold and resolute. "Your empire relies on these conduits for power. Without them, your worlds will burn." The chamber shook as explosions rocked the cruiser, sending sparks flying and forcing everyone to take cover. Keller stumbled, his confidence crumbling as realization dawned. The device Alex had activated was triggering a cascade failure throughout the Vryn network, disabling their ships and crippling their infrastructure. Ryan and Elena ushered the team back toward the shuttle, knowing they had mere minutes to escape before the cruiser self-destructed. As they fled, Alex glanced back at Keller, who stood frozen in disbelief. For all his arrogance and cruelty, the Vryn leader had never imagined that a single human could bring about his downfall. The team barely made it to the shuttle in time. As they launched away from the doomed cruiser, a massive explosion engulfed the vessel, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The blast knocked nearby Vryn ships off course, further destabilizing their already chaotic formation. Back aboard the flagship, news of Keller's demise spread quickly. The Vryn fleet, now leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. Their once unstoppable advance had been halted, their dominance shattered by humanity's ingenuity and determination. On Earth, the survivors emerged from their shelters, blinking in the sunlight as the skies cleared. Cheers erupted as word of the victory reached them, spreading like wildfire across the planet. For the first time in years, there was hope, a belief that humanity could rise above adversity and forge a brighter future. Ryan and Elena joined Alex on the bridge, their expressions weary but triumphant. "We did it," Ryan said quietly, his voice tinged with awe. "Against all odds, we actually did it." Alex nodded, though his thoughts were elsewhere. He thought of the lives lost, the sacrifices made, and the long road ahead. Victory had been achieved, but peace was still fragile. The Vryn might regroup, and other threats loomed in the vastness of space. Yet for now, humanity had proven itself capable of standing tall against even the most formidable foes. Zara walked onto the bridge, her presence a quiet reminder of the bridges humanity had begun to build. "Thank you," she said softly, addressing the group, "for giving me a chance to fight for something greater than myself." Alex smiled faintly, feeling a sense of the aftermath of the battle left a deep mark on both humanity and the Vryn. The skies above Earth, once filled with fire and destruction, now shimmered with the light of dawn breaking through scattered clouds. Smoke rose from ruined cities, and the scars of war were visible everywhere, but amidst the rubble there was a sense of triumph. Humanity had faced its greatest fear and survived. The Vryn fleet, broken and leaderless, retreated into the depths of space, leaving behind remnants of their shattered empire. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge of the flagship, gazing out at the slowly healing planet below. His face was lined with exhaustion, but his eyes held a glimmer of hope. The victory had come at a heavy cost, ships lost, lives sacrificed, but it had proven something vital: humanity could fight back. Around him, the crew worked quietly, repairing damaged systems and tending to the wounded. There was no celebration, only the quiet satisfaction of having done what needed to be done. Lieutenant Elena Morales joined him, her expression thoughtful as she studied the data pouring in from across the globe. "We've crippled them," she said softly, leaning against the railing beside him. "But they'll regroup eventually. We can't let our guard down." Ryan nodded, understanding the weight of her words. "For now, we've bought ourselves time. That's all we can ask for." Alex Carter sat nearby, his body still weak from months of hardship, but his spirit unbroken. He watched the others move about the bridge, their actions calm and deliberate. Though he had played a key role in the mission, he didn't feel like a hero. Instead, he felt a profound sense of responsibility. The war may have been won for now, that the galaxy was vast and dangers lurked beyond every star. Humanity would need to adapt, grow stronger, and prepare for whatever came next. Zara approached Alex, her glowing eyes reflecting gratitude and determination. She had chosen to stay with humanity, believing that change could only come from within. Her presence was a reminder that alliances could form even in the darkest times. "Thank you," she said simply, sitting beside him, "for trusting me, for showing me that not all humans are like the stories Keller told." Alex smiled faintly, his voice soft but sincere. "And thank you for helping us. Without you, we wouldn't have made it this far." Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the ship's intercom. A message had been received from one of the outer colonies, a call for aid. The colony had been attacked during the Vryn assault and was struggling to recover. Supplies were running low, and survivors needed medical attention. It was a stark reminder that while the immediate threat had passed, the effects of the war would linger for years to come. Ryan turned to Elena, his tone firm but weary. "We can't ignore them. Send a team to assess the damage and provide support." Elena nodded, already issuing orders to the crew. "I'll organize a relief mission. We'll prioritize food, medicine, and shelter." As preparations began, Alex found himself reflecting on the events that had led him here. From the moment the Vryn destroyed his home, he had vowed revenge. Now, standing on the brink of a new era, he realized how much had changed, not just in the world around him, but within himself. He had started as a lone survivor, driven by grief and anger. But along the way, he had become part of something greater, a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for those who refused to give up. One evening, as the flagship orbited Earth, Alex walked through its corridors, listening to the hum of machinery and the distant voices of the crew. He stopped outside a small observation deck, where a group of children had gathered. They laughed and played together, oblivious to the horrors their parents had endured. Watching them, Alex felt a pang of sadness, but also a spark of hope. These were the lives they had fought to protect, the future generations who deserved a chance to grow up without fear. Whatever happened next, he vowed to ensure they had that chance. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal, or as close to normal as it could be after such devastation. Cities were rebuilt, farms replanted, and schools reopened. People mourned their losses but also celebrated their survival. Stories of bravery spread, inspiring others to contribute however they could. Engineers designed new weapons and defenses. Farmers worked tirelessly to feed the growing population. And teachers educated the next generation about the importance of unity and perseverance. Among these efforts was Zara, who had taken on a unique role as a liaison between humanity and other species. Using her knowledge of the Vryn, she helped develop strategies to counter their technology and advised leaders on diplomatic approaches to potential allies. Her presence sparked curiosity and sometimes suspicion, but over time, she earned trust through her actions and dedication. Meanwhile, Ryan and Elena focused on strengthening Earth's defenses. They knew the Vryn might return, and when they did, humanity would need to be ready. New ships were constructed, equipped with advanced disruptors and cloaking technology. Training programs were expanded, ensuring that soldiers were prepared for any scenario. Colonies established backup communication networks and supply lines, reducing their dependence on centralized systems. Despite these efforts, tensions remained high. Reports trickled in of rogue Vryn factions operating in remote regions of space, attacking weaker species and scavenging resources. Some believed Keller's death had fractured the Empire, creating power vacuums that opportunistic commanders sought to fill. Others feared it was only a matter of time before a new leader emerged. More ruthless than the last. In response, humanity formed alliances with neighboring species who shared their desire for peace. Trade agreements were signed, mutual defense pacts established, and cultural exchanges encouraged. These partnerships strengthened Earth's position in the galaxy, proving that cooperation could achieve more than conquest. As months turned into years, Alex continued to play a vital role in shaping humanity's future. He traveled between colonies, sharing his experiences and offering guidance to those rebuilding their lives. His words carried weight, not because he claimed authority, but because he spoke from the heart. He reminded people that fear was natural but should never dictate their actions. Courage, he said, was not the absence of fear but the decision to act despite it. One day, while visiting a newly established colony on the edge of human territory, Alex met a young girl named Lily. She was curious and fearless, asking endless questions about the stars and the creatures that lived among them. When she asked Alex if he thought another war would come, he knelt beside her, meeting her gaze with steady eyes. "Wars happen when people forget how to talk to each other," he said gently. "Our job is to make sure that doesn't happen. Again, to build bridges instead of walls." Lily nodded solemnly, as if absorbing his words deeply. Then, with a bright smile, she ran off to join her friends, leaving Alex to watch her go with a sense of quiet pride. Far away in the ruins of the Vryn Empire, whispers of rebellion stirred. Those who had opposed Keller's rule saw his downfall as an opportunity to reshape their society. They remembered Zara's courage and wondered if change truly was possible. Slowly, movements began to form, advocating for peace and cooperation, rather than domination. It was a fragile beginning, but it offered hope that even the most entrenched ideologies could evolve. On Earth, under a sky dotted with stars, humanity looked outward with renewed purpose. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but they were no longer afraid to explore it. They carried with them the lessons of the past, the knowledge that strength came not from power but from unity, not from arrogance but from humility, and so, as the sun set on another day, its golden light casting long shadows across the land, Alex Carter stood atop a hill overlooking the bustling colony below. He thought of all they had endured and all they had achieved. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. But for the first time in a long time, he felt confident that humanity would rise to meet them, because, in the end, it wasn't about watching worlds blaze, it was about protecting the ones worth saving.